Hey guys, welcome back to Seller Sessions. This is show 499 in total. In the next couple of days, we're going to be celebrating Seller Sessions 500 tomorrow and Wednesday. We're going to bring in numerous guests, but for today, we have brought in Dr. Ellis Whitehead, my partner in Databrill. Today, we're going to talk a bit about bid management and a few other bits and pieces on the show today. But without further ado, Ellis, would you like to give the audience a little bit of background on yourself?
Well, hello, my name is Ellis, and I've been working with Danny now for a couple of years, and we have our advertising agency, and I love doing data analysis and all the statistical evaluation and the automation and software programming for this kind of stuff. So happy to be on and talk about it today, Danny.
Excellent. Okay, should we get underway then? So give us some of the basics, some of the things that we shape at the agency when it comes to bid management, the thought process and stuff behind it.
Sure. So on the simplest level, you can really reduce bid management to one little formula. And this applies in the simple cases. And this one formula is, what is your target ACoS times your historic conversion rate? Mm-hmm. And if you use this formula to calculate your bids, you're likely to have a very reasonable bid on all of your keywords where you do this for. And that said, that's for the simple case, and so that's where a person should start. And then it gets more complicated, of course. One of the places where it gets more complicated is you have these different ad placements, so top of search and placement on other products, and the other, it's like middle of the first page and then after the first page, and the cost per click and the conversion rates and all of these different ad positions is different. And so actually your historic conversion rate would be different. Are you actually going to win the auction at that bid level that you calculate from your target ACoS times your conversion rate? And if you don't know that yet, then you're going to have to find out. Mm-hmm. And so to find out, you just have to experiment, try it out. And if you don't have previous information on your historical conversion rate, then you make some assumption. And in general, if you don't have a really expensive product, a good average or a good assumed conversion rate is 10%. If you have an expensive product, then you're looking more at maybe 5% as a good starting point. And let's see, where was I? You're starting. Oh, okay. So if you don't have much data, then you just kind of start these. And then you're going to want to raise the bids enough to try to get some information on, what's it cost to get top of search, or in most cases you'll want to. Yeah. And if you can get top of search, that's where you're likely to have your best conversion rates as well, but also the highest cost per click in general.
Would you increase from the default bid?
That depends on how cautious you are. If you really don't have much, you want to spend as little money as possible, but you have a lot of time to invest, then it's just fine to only go up, 10%. Normally with our clients where we're not so price sensitive, we would go up 20 to 50%. Yeah. And that's in general. If we're really wanting to get the information quicker and really want to push top of search, then we have no problem going up, doubling the bids and stuff. So that's perfectly fine. Or even simply bidding, say $9 a bid, $9 a click, or something along those lines, but on a campaign with a low daily budget, like maybe $18. Just to see whether we can get any clicks or not.
Yeah, that makes sense. What else would you say goes into the bid management here as well?
Well, what we just discussed was really the very basics.
Yes. Yeah.
And that would be like on an individual keyword level.
Hmm.
Once you start looking at the larger level, at your total daily spend or the spend across all of your campaigns, or in a particular campaign with a lot of keywords, you're going to need to think about it a bit differently.
Okay.
And we sometimes have clients come to us who say, okay, we'd like to spend 10,000 this month on ads. And that's not, when they come with a fixed sum like that, that's not good for optimizing PPC on Amazon. And the reason is because if you're looking at a fixed sum over a fixed period of time, in order to get to that sum, you're either going to be overspending or spending on extra things that aren't so optimal, or you're going to be not spending money where you could have, really good ACoS and it would bring in a lot more profit. And so what we generally advise, instead of the fixed ad budget over a fixed period of time, is to think of it in terms of what is your target ACoS over all keywords for a particular product or set of products, and what percentage, and this is the important part, and what percentage of sales do you want to be coming from the ads? And so now we have these two parts to it. So the first part is your target ACoS. We were already talking about that when we set our bids for an individual keyword.
Yeah.
But now for managing the account on a higher level, the total spend is important too. But in particular for optimizing, looking at the percentage of sales through ads is really important. So as a general rule, with lots of exceptions, but as a general rule, you don't, if you're getting less than 20% of your sales through ads, you're probably leaving money on the table. You're underutilizing PPC. On the other hand, if you're getting more than 40% of your sales through ads, your business for this particular product, at least, is probably too dependent on Amazon advertising.
Yeah.
There are, like I said, to all these things,
There's many exceptions.
Yes.
Yeah.
But this is a good starting point.
Okay.
And
so can I just jump in there, just because you
please,
used 20 as an example and 40 as the example? Say you want to get on the path correction, you are spending, 40% of your sales are coming through ads. Yeah. What things can people do to make that adjustment if they want to shoot for lower? Where would you say, what would they look for to make those adjustments?
Well, it's a really good question. So there are a number of dials that we can then work. One of them is you can lower your ACoS target in the bids that you're running. And so if you lower your bids, it's likely to lower your spend. Doesn't always do it, of course. So if your bids
depends
are high
on the
enough,
velocity of the market,
and depends on your actual cost of click in relationship to your bids, because maybe you're bidding like $1 for a particular keyword, but Amazon's only charging you 60 cents. Then if you lower your bid from $1 to 80 cents, it's not going to make any difference. You're still going to be paying 60 cents per click. But that's one place to start. Another one is you could potentially, I don't normally recommend this, you could potentially set a daily account budget to put a limit on how much you're spending at all, in total in a day. Another one is you can pause the campaigns that have a higher ACoS or something. And if you have fewer campaigns running, you're likely to be spending less money. But this is not predictable because Amazon, you have to test it. Amazon might then just start giving the clicks that were going to these campaigns that are now paused and transfer them over to the other campaigns that are still running. And you could also look into possibly not advertising every product on every day.
Yep.
So it could, under some circumstances, it might make sense to only advertise. I mean, if you think you really want to come down in your percentage of sales through ads, maybe some of your campaigns you only run every other day. And so it basically comes down to how is it you can limit the spend. Those are a few ways. Another way is you could limit how long you run a campaign during the day. So something we sometimes do is we'll sometimes, cut out a few hours from a campaign and see what the impact is.
That makes sense. And let's switch it over to those who are hitting about 20% but want to increase their sales. What are some of the elements they would add to their canon there in terms of increasing that, as long as there's room in the market to grow?
Right. So what we see a lot of people missing is advertising on competitor ASINs. So some people come to us and they've done this very well, but most do not do it systematically and don't maintain the ASINs and don't necessarily do it extensively. So that's one really good place to start. Doesn't work for everybody, or
I think we're losing a bit of your audio there.
Oh yeah?
Are you on Wi-Fi?
No, I'm on a very solid connection.
Okay, you're back again. It's all good.
Okay. Sorry. So what was the last thing that came through?
Oh, just what you were just saying there. You've only lost like a second or so. So if you just want to back up a sentence, you'll be fine.
Yeah, no problem. What was the question again?
We're talking about the expansion up of the 20%.
Right.
If you're getting 20% of your sales through,
Right. So the ASIN targeting is really good. One thing to be aware of there is that the cost per click tends to be relatively high compared to the conversion rate. So you're likely to have higher ACoS. You're generally going to have a higher ACoS on those campaigns than on your keyword campaigns. But there are exceptions.
Yeah. Just
go ahead.
Sorry. No, go on, you finish.
Okay. So if your ACoS isn't too high, overall, your total ACoS, then that's a really good one of a few really good places to try to start pushing, because then you can start getting sales off of ad spots on Amazon that you weren't exploiting before.
Yep, that makes sense. I just want to say some hellos. Sahel, as we know him very well, says good afternoon, gents. Joe's here, says hello, gents. IB says good afternoon. Facebook username hasn't come up, but hello, very interesting. How to get more sales organically? What are the general recommendations? Let's come back to that one in a little while. In feed, hello, Kevin. Sharon's back. Marvin's here. Mia's here as well. Luca, Tom, Lisa, Herb is back as well. Okay, so have we covered the bid management side before going to spend management? Because or should we talk about some historical stuff as well? Because in terms of forcing the bid up and down in terms of evaluation.
Well, we're actually, this is kind of this is already into the spend part of it, is looking at how we're dialing both of these sides with
together,
looking at the percentage of sales through ads. Yeah,
that makes sense. Where do you want to go next?
Well, there are if you're trying to push up your percentage of sales through ads, then I mentioned this one way of going more systematically after competitor ASINs. It's a very important area for, I think, that is often missed. Another one is making sure that you're running exact match campaigns. So this is an easy one. Exact match campaigns on all of your relevant keywords in the brand analytics report. So, you can think in terms of what are your core keywords and your kind of secondary keywords. So your core keywords would be the ones that usually have to be in the search term. in order for somebody to want to buy it all. So if you're selling red gloves, for example, red is not a core keyword, but something like gloves would be.
Yeah.
And if somebody's looking for, red hats, just because yours is red, that's not a good one. So look through the brand analytics reports for your core keywords, and you can just take all of those, filter through them, make sure that they're relevant to you, and do exact match campaigns for those at a reasonable bid. And you might already have, depending on how rich that set is, you might already have all of those. The next thing to do would be to go after the same things, but in broad match. This takes a lot more attention on your part, though, because you'll be getting a lot of bad keywords in there that just aren't going to convert well for you. Yeah. And so you have to stay on top of that and make sure you're adding in the negative keywords in a timely manner. So that would be the second thing that I would recommend. If the keywords are not in brand analytics, they're probably not going to be important for you, but there are exceptions in all of our client accounts, or not all of them, in most of them. Yeah. And those kinds of keywords you can find in your PPC search term reports. So you're likely to find some in there where you're getting sales that are meaningful, even though the keywords are so long tail, they don't even show up on the brand analytics reports. But it's usually not a big percentage.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then as a third thing that I'd recommend is you're probably not getting top of search for a lot of your keywords that you might expect that you are. And so take a look at that. And if you're not getting top of search, then seriously consider trying to push the keywords, the keywords that you have the best conversion rate for, and see if you can get top of search placement for those. If it's a long tail keyword, it might be that you easily get top of search, but who cares if it's super long tail? It just might not have the traffic to make it worth it. But if it has reasonable search volume and you're not getting the placements, by pushing the bids, you temporarily, to make the experiment, you get information back on the conversion rate. And if you have a good conversion rate, and by good, I mean about twice your non-top of search conversion rate. So for products that aren't too expensive, 20% or so is what you'd kind of expect to see for a good top of search keyword. And if you can get that top of search placement and have good conversion rate there, then by pushing that, you can, it will, in all likelihood, improve your keyword ranking. And if Amazon sees over a period of time that you're consistently getting a good conversion rate for it, your cost per click is also likely, not guaranteed, but likely to also gradually come down.
Yeah, that makes sense. In terms of bid management, just going back there again, what do you add different approaches to different size accounts? So if someone's listening, they've got a handful of products spending, say, $1,000 a month compared to somebody spending $30,000. What kind of approaches would you look at there?
Well, on the bid calculation level, it's the exact same thing. It's just this really simple formula of your target A cost times your historic conversion rate.
Yep.
And you can get more sophisticated, but 90% of your value is just going to come from, of the potential value is going to come from that simple formula for bids. And then when it comes to the overall, like managing an entire campaign or set of campaigns, there the major difference is how much extra money is available for really pushing top of search.
Mhm.
So for smaller clients, if they're in an area that's competitive, they usually don't have the funds to push top of search on a competitive keyword.
Yeah.
And so in that case, what they want to do is try to build up more from the bottom with getting good finding where are their best conversion rates on long tail keywords, getting as many of those running, and advertising on and finding the competitors that have really high sales, but where your product compares favorably if you're advertising on that product. So in that case, advertising on this ASIN, even though it's also expensive, it's less competitive than getting the top of search placement for, the main keywords. And so if your product compares favorably on that, high selling competitor, like you have a lower price and better ratings, for example, maybe better images, then your conversion rates will be respectable for it. Still lower normally than normal keyword searches, but respectable for advertising on a competitor. And that will start to also give you history. So Amazon sees somebody comes in and looks for Bluetooth earbuds, let's say. And let's say you can't advertise on Bluetooth earbuds because it's way too expensive and competitive. But you have some specialized Bluetooth earbuds. And so you advertise on some, top seller among the Bluetooth earbuds. And people start buying yours as well off of this top seller. What we sometimes see is that can help increase your rankings on these main keywords like Bluetooth earbuds, even though you're not advertising top of search. You're not getting top of search placement for your ads there.
Yep, makes sense. And what about with aggressive campaigns for ranking? The intent is to rank the new product. Obviously, there still has to be a form of bid management there. What kind of approach would you use there for the initial, and then obviously it will go into maintenance down the road? But what's your take on that?
The main things that we want to look at are what's our ACoS target? How much do we want to advertise per day?
Yeah.
And how long do we want to run it? And are we coordinating with an external campaign?
Right. Yep.
So it's not unusual in the beginning to set an ACoS target that's way over the margin. So we often, our clients, it's not unusual for them to set 100% ACoS target or even 200%.
Yep.
For a short while in the beginning. And so if you can coordinate this with an external campaign, that's also very advantageous because that can increase your conversion rate, both it's a good signal if they're clicking on your ads, and it's a good signal for Amazon's ad algorithm. It's a good signal for you're getting a good conversion rate, of course, for the organic ranking. And so, yeah, if you're going to run an external campaign and you want your PPC to benefit from it as well, then consider coordinating.
Yeah.
And then there's the question of how long do you want to run this and how much budget do you have per day? So we usually kind of cap the daily budget for these sorts of things. I shouldn't say half the time we cap the daily budget on these kinds of things because we don't want it to, run off the tracks too much.
Yeah.
But not always. And yep. So that's why. So there's one other thing. It is not advantageous to spend a lot of money on doing these top of search placements with high cost per click unless you have a good conversion rate.
Yeah.
So make sure you're looking at what kind of conversion rates you're getting on those keywords that you're running these campaigns on, and stop the ones that don't have a good conversion rate. Also, for each of the keywords, put it in its own campaign. So one campaign, one ASIN, just for that keyword, because if these are your main ones, you're going to be spending a lot of money on them. Then you want to get the best statistics you can about placement, and that's something that you can only get on a campaign level. So that's what I'd recommend there.
Cool. I'll bring this question in. It says, hello, very interesting. How to get more sales organically? What are the general recommendations? Just probably best way to explain it is to piggyback off of what you do in terms of when we're doing launch campaigns using PPC and the effects it has on organics.
So yeah, we really, the main thing for getting organic sales is ranking on organic keywords. And then there are all kinds of other things, like also showing up under high selling competitors is advantageous. Like under customers also bought this or also viewed these things. But that's harder to control long term. So just going back to your organic ranking on keywords is you need to find which keywords are relevant. And relevance is composed as a mixture of, relevance is how relevant is that keyword to your product. Yeah. What kind of, do you expect a really good conversion rate on that keyword compared to your competitors?
Yeah.
And something we see often, it's not at all unusual, is that there may be almost no search volume for like certain products don't have any product specific search volume. There's just like a general niche and all the products are generic, and what more is there to specify in there? At least there's not, people aren't searching for things more specifically. In that case, it's difficult. But if you have a product with a sufficiently rich search volume on keywords where your products will have a higher conversion rate than the other offerings out there, then that gives you then you're in a good position to raise in the ranks, because you can get a better conversion rate on those keywords. And so getting these more sales organically, we complement that. We work on that from a PPC side and try to help the ASINs raise in their organic ranking by demonstrating to Amazon that on these important keywords, they have a good conversion rate.
Yep, that makes sense. Sai says, how much per day should realistically be dedicated to PPC management? I'm sure he probably means budget rather than management, as in paying an agency. Sai, if you want to rephrase that question, or Ellis, can you answer that question in terms of daily budget, how he should manage it?
Well, I'm reading this as how much time would a person need realistically to keep
time.
PPC
Yeah, sorry,
going?
I misread that. Yeah.
Okay. It varies so much per account. We have clients sometimes come to us who spent 20 hours a week. You know, I mean that's on the high end, but there's a lot of pain for them, and if they're spending 20 hours a week just on advertising. And what's not at all uncommon is 20 hours a month for some of the clients. And so, there you're looking at 5 hours a week. That'd be like 1 hour a day. And that's also too much. I mean, if you're running a business, you don't want to be spending half a week a month of, full-time work necessarily on PPC. And then a lot of our clients come to us and they haven't been spending enough time. They know it. It's so neglected. but it really depends on the size of your account. So if I were running a small business like my wife's business, then maybe an hour a week was pretty sufficient for managing the PPC on a small account. Once you get into things where there's more competition and it's more dynamic, then it just, it keeps going up. And like I mentioned, we have clients who ended up, going from an hour a day to eventually they're 4 hours a day, because as their product selection grew.
I think also that comes for if you're less experienced with PPC, you assume you've got to spend more time on it. So people go into the accounts, they're not, it depends on their knowledge level. They might be going in there and fiddling and not recording any of the changes and over optimizing on their accounts. But like you said, you need to have the data to make informed decisions. Question here, when you've launched a product and just started PPC, do you start with Amazon recommended bids or set lower, higher? This will go back into your target ACOS if you want to explain.
Right. So we don't use the recommended bids really at all. Because of this formula, you take your target ACOS times the conversion rate, historic conversion rate.
Yep.
So if you're just starting out with a new product, you need to know your margins. And so one common way to choose the target ACOS is just set it to what your margin is. So let's say you have a $25 product and you have a $5 margin. So that would be 20%. And so your target ACOS would then be 20%. The higher your margin is, the better you'll be able to work with PPC. So a lot of our clients have a margin that's more like maybe more like around 40% or so. And so this gives you a lot more room to work with. And but in this case, we'll go with this 20%. So you set your target to 20%, and you don't know your conversion rate yet. So if it's $25, it's not too expensive. You just use the rule of thumb of 10% conversion rate. And so you take your your target ACOS. It's actually your the target margin. So $5 times a conversion rate of 10%. So you would set that to 50 cents per bid. Yeah. Add a little bit to it. So maybe another 5 cents or so to give a little bit of room for up and down. We use mostly up and down bids. We sometimes use fixed bids. And yeah, so I like, after experimenting with fixed bids, so there's certain campaigns where we just use fixed bids. For the majority of campaigns, we use the up and down. I'm sorry, not up and down. We use the down bids.
Yeah,
I find that works the best.
Sounds good. So if we were to summarize, going back through the notes here regarding obviously bid management and spend management, what is the key takeaways here?
For on bid levels, calculate your bids if you can, and just use the formula. And on a higher level, when looking at your campaigns for specific products, keep in mind this concept of the percentage of ad sales coming through ads. Yeah. And if your percentage of sales is too low, let's say below 20% to generalize, then look at, well, what can I do to take more advantage of PPC? And if it's too high, don't get caught in the trap of thinking you need to be selling no matter what. You don't. And so bring down the spending in the most intelligent way you can, to get it into a region where you're not so dependent on ad sales.
Makes sense. Cool. Is there anything you want to cover before we go?
I think we covered everything I had in mind.
Cool. Kasim says, hello, guys. Cyb says, yep, as Ellis has got it from the question I misread earlier on. Nalia says, come back and says, thank you very much. Alan says, hello, Danny. Hello, Ellis, and
Hi, Alan.
everyone else. If you're looking for PPC management, you can drop me an email to danny@databrill.com. We've got a new website launch and stuff coming very soon as well. But for now, Ellis, we're going to bid you farewell. Don't forget, guys, come back tomorrow, Seller Sessions 500 episode. We're going to do part 1 and part 2. We're going to have 30 people coming in over the next couple of days, asking them specific questions. I'll keep that a bit more as a surprise. Stay home, stay safe, look after your family, and I'll be back here again tomorrow at 4 p.m. BST. Take care.
Take care, everyone.